Waar is die masekinders? Waar is jy? Kom sis. Hallo. Kom. Hallo. Kom. Oh. Hallo. Hello, Louis. You're so here. So when a tiger has water, they get active. It's playtime. You know, lions hate water. Tigers and leopards love water. They love it when it rains. Really? Because it's nature. Yeah, the lions. Yeah. When it's hot and it rains, normally, you can see they're relieved. Yeah. But when it's cold and it's winter, the lions don't like the rain. But the other animals love it. No, my mother just I think my name was taken from Katarina. It's my name doesn't have, look, in those years they gave you family names. Like I'm Sharine Sophia. So the Sharine was taken from my father's mother, Katarina, and then Sophia is one of my mothers. My mother is Sophia Maria Magdalena. So I've got the family name of my mother's side. So yeah, but I don't think Sharine, I don't know. You must Google it. What is Sharine? It's a spelling also that you get nowhere. I think there's only a few people in the world that the spelling of Sharine is like that. Yeah. Now the lions are talking. That's Napo. Yeah, he's a talker. This is Thor, the one male that's over there. I'll show you in a bit. Yeah, so my childhood was a good childhood. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I wouldn't be on another place than when I grew up. Even if we didn't have a lot of money. Later on, my father worked his hands to the bone to provide us with the best opportunities, and we had everything. There wasn't anything that we didn't have. Everything that we needed, we have. And I think growing up like that formed me into the person that I am today. It makes you thankful if you see how kids today and how people live today, and I'm just very thankful for the way I grew up, and I'm thankful to have had the father that I had. My mother is still alive, so she's still on the farm. My brother is running the farm. I wouldn't give it away for anything in the world. I will go back in time. My sister was like a nun. She was 4 years older than me, so I used to hate my sister at school because she didn't like short skirts, and she was very disciplined, and she always did her homework. So I was always in the shadow of, you have to be like that, because she was the perfect child. She always did her homework. She had good grades because she wanted to have good grades. She never wanted to go out, and she was always back home in time. So when I go out, I was like the black sheep. I was like the naughty one. I would challenge my father and my mother in every single way I can. I will put on the shortest short that there is, and I would walk with crop tops where I can, and I will always be late. When we go out, I will be 2 hours over the limit, and then I would get a hiding. And so I used to hate my sister at school because I was like, why do you have to be like this? Now I have to be like this. And my brother, he always, my older brother BJ, he was head boy of the school, and the rugby guy. So my parents didn't really care what he did because he was the eldest boy. You know what the boys always say, if they play rugby, it's like, listen, you're the man, you can do anything you want. But my relationship after school, and then at the end of matric, you can't wait to get out of the house, because now you've got your car, you're going to Bloemfontein, you're away, you can do whatever you want, you can get home whenever you want. And I think I was at university for a month, and you just went back home. every weekend you just get your friends, say, listen, are we going home this weekend? So the relationship with my parents just grew stronger over the years. As you get older, I think you appreciate your parents more, because you get older and you get wiser, and especially when you have your own kids, you appreciate your parents. And then when you have a daughter that goes out with a crop top and she's 16 years old, you tell her, listen, go back to your room, go put on some clothes. And then it's the same, then I sit and laugh, because then you think back to when you were that age, and I can just see the hate in her eyes, It's like, but why should I look pretty? And I say, no, but that's not the message you want. Exactly the same words that my father used to tell me, I'm telling my daughter. So, and I think that's the life, and that's what life is all about. You evolve and you learn, and then you sit and laugh. Years, 20 years, 25 years from where you were a child, then you say, listen, now I understand what my parents were trying to teach me. And it's the relationship just gets better and better as time goes by. So when I was a student, I smoked and you partied and you drank, and then when we got married, I said, okay, we're not going to drink anymore. And the moment we started with a family, all that stopped. Me and my husband stopped drinking, so I started drinking wine in lockdown again, but we'll get to that, why I started drinking wine. I never drank wine at university. So everything changes. That was the key moment, I think, when my life changed. Knowing that I am responsible for this life, everything I do, and not when they're a baby, but everything you do every day affects him. And a year after that I had my daughter, and a year after that I had another daughter, and 3 years the last one. So yes, definitely when I became a mother, and it all integrates into working with animals. If you have a baby lion or an animal that you have to raise, it's like having a baby. You are responsible for that life, and especially if you buy in a gene with an animal and you pay 150,000 rand for that baby, it's not like, listen, I don't want to wake up every hour to give it food. Let's see if it still lives in the morning. You can't do that, because it's a rare gene that you've been waiting a year for. You have responsibilities. So that was the one key moment in my life that absolutely changed my focus on life. It changes the focus away from yourself. I think when you're young, you're very into yourself, and it's all about you, and especially if you're newlywed and you've got this place and you're working with lions, you can very quickly lose sight of what it's all about actually, because then you focus on the wrong thing. You focus on yourself. So I think the focus also changes. It's not about yourself anymore. It's about what can you do for life? What can you do for the animals? How can you be a better mother so that your children can become the best versions of who they are? And then the second key moment in my life was the day that my father died. He was a healthy farmer, farmed himself, he smoked his whole life, but he was a healthy farmer, he was a healthy guy. And then just the one day he stood up from braaiing the Sunday, like always, every Sunday it's braai day, and he walked and he just fell on his nose, broke his nose, and he was out, and everyone thought he had a stroke, and rushed him to hospital, and he had brain cancer. And he was diagnosed in February. March he was operated on. April, May, June 21 he died. So it was 3 months after that. And I think having that happened, I realized how short life is, and your path is created for you. You are not in charge of your life. You think you're in charge of your life because you make the decisions and you say, okay, yeah, but I'm going to do this, and I'm not in charge. And I think that changed my whole life, and that was also how I wrote my gospel song Pray. You just realize that God walks before you. You are not in charge of your life, and you have to pray about things. You come to crossroads in your life, and you think you can make a decision, and then you realize, but your time is not God's time. So I think those are the two key moments that my life completely changed. I'm not scared to say I'm a Christian and I believe in God, and I believe we were put on earth for a purpose, and the purpose is to get people to Jesus, to get people to believe in God, and live their lives accordingly. Look, we all sin. Yes, ek vloek soos 'n matroos. I promise you, I can swear. My kids will also tell you that's something. My husband sometimes just look at me like that, and I can really, but it doesn't mean because I swear that I'm not a Christian or that I don't lead a Christian life. So what I don't like, I can tell you that, is people that walks with a Bible under their arms, and talk to you in scriptures the whole time. I don't believe in that, because I wrote a gospel song. If you know me, I'm really not, in lockdown, I had 16 children here that stayed here permanently for 9 months. 16 together, not with my kids. My kids came extra, so 16 other kids, because we felt at that stage, look, when lockdown struck us, it was the best time of our lives, because I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to train for any world championships. You could just wake up and you can spend time with the animals, because I think what I missed most when I opened the facilities, when I opened the restaurant 12 years ago, and we were fully booked with people, and we had tourists. I was never not open. It was 7 days a week, 24/7. So when lockdown struck, it was just like, what, now we've got time for the animals. And then the kids asked, can they have friends over? And I said, yeah, we had permits to be on the road at that stage, because because of the animals. We had to get food, and we also, with the butchery, we gave food to a lot of people. So we used to smuggle in kids from town in the bakkie and pack the stuff on top of them, because parents found us out of the city and said, can the kids just come for 2 days? They are getting crazy in the city. They don't know what to do with them anymore. So at the end of the day, we had 16 children, and they stayed here for 9 months. That's when I started to drink again. After 20 years, I promise you, because then the restaurant was closed. You couldn't sell the alcohol, and I never used to drink wine. I said, you know what, I turned 40 in lockdown. I said, okay, I'm going to have a glass of wine. Oh. Hallo Betsy. Hey. Wat ruik jy? Hallo Noe. Hallo Petgat. Julle is baie vet. Ek moet julle deadline gooi, almal van julle. Wat ruik jy? Is die luiperde? Ja, is daai 2 stoutgatte? Ruik hulle net? Hallo! Waar is my kinders? Hallo Tequila! Hallo Nala! Oh, hallo Bonkan! Kom in. Wie is my groot seun? Wie is my se grootste Ronde kop leeu. We only recently moved them out of the house. There where the 2 young lions are. They were there. Come Tequila, and they never give him a chance to come and say hello to me. Hi! Oh, waar's jy? Waar's my seun? Waar's my Jessie, maar jy's vet, ou bul. Jy lyk soos 'n bees. Jy lyk soos 'n flippin bees, 'n bul. Jy sê my's 'n bulletjie. This is Cape Lion. Oh, hulle is so mooi. Look at the thickness of the tail, né? Oh, stadig Nala. Stadig by jou tande. Stadig Nooi. Stadig. Oei, sê kyk net met tande oor. Kyk net met tande. Jy moet nou stil hou. Jy kan nie, jy's swaar. Jy kan nie my vingers so seer maak nie. Ek weet, sy mooi se kind verlang so. Sy mooi se kind verlang sy ma. So normally if you go to other places and you don't have this, then you realize that they weren't raised with affection because they're just lying there. Sometimes you get to places and they just lie. They don't even respond. If you say hi or you go, they just stare, and that is for me. I can't handle that because this is the way they're supposed to be. Nature, this is how they are. So it happened that someone picked up a lion cub at the Sudoring Nature Conservation in the gravel road. 2-week-old. They estimated that the cub was about 2 weeks old. Ek wil nie nou speel nie. And they took it to the zoo. And the zoo placed it out to one of the friends of the zoo, a woman, and she raised the lion cub. If you know wild animals have a different diet than your normal cat and your normal dog. Even a cheetah, if you take a caracal, if you take a serval, if you take a lion, if you take a tiger, if you take a leopard, they all eat different things in nature. Like a serval, the spotted cat, the smaller one with the long legs, they're bird hunters. So their main food are birds. Caracals catch sheep and small game. So that's their main food. Lions eat other animals. Lion eats a variety of animals. So I think out of a lack of knowledge, this friend of the zoo fed that lion cub only cow's milk, and when he got teeth, she fed him red meat, steaks. So at the age of 4 months, Bongane, his legs were hanging. He couldn't stand on his hind legs anymore. He started walking into things, and because he couldn't see anymore. So the owner of the zoo took Bongane to the vet, and they said that it's a bad gene. The lion must be put out. And a volunteer, they also had volunteers, but they had South African volunteers. I told you about the volunteers that came here from overseas, but the zoo had local volunteers. So one of the girls came to my husband. I wasn't married at that stage. I was still studying law. And she told him that they are going to put out this lion cub. What is he going to help? Now he's in the law, and he was also the first person to have a big bird cage in the city. So that was a thing those years. And he went to the vet and he confiscated the lion. And we got the lion, saw it, and we said, listen, but this can only be malnutrition. But the lion was really sick, so he couldn't walk anymore. Nee, Sydney. Okay. Sy wil nou speel. So we took the lion, and we took the lion to Onderstepoort in Pretoria. And when the report came back, we got him back at 9 months, so he was there for 5 months. And when the report came back, it was malnutrition. So his hind legs, both of them were broken at 2 places, both of them. And he was farsighted because he had eye operations. He was getting blind. So we got Bongane back. He was 9 months old. And then we decided we're going to call this place Bagamoya because it's going to be a shelter of lions. And then we got in genes. We bought 2 females. They were a year old, so they weren't cubs because Bongane was 9 months old already. And we started with the gene pools. And that's how Bagamoya started. We just said we are going in the direction of gene preservation. We are going to be a sanctuary. We're going to rescue animals. And we're going to breed. At that stage it was only lions. We didn't have any other animals for a year. And then in those years, the auctions just started to flare up with game and with big cats. So there was a lot of farms that was in the trading of the animals. So they bred lions and then they sold the cubs. And that's where we started. After that, then we bought a cub, Mufasa. He's still alive. He was my first. Actually, no, we first bought Nala. My husband bought me Nala. She was a cub of a week old. She died at the age of 10 years while giving birth to 5 babies. So that was a terrible time for me. And then the same year we bought Mufasa. So we bought in different genes from different places to get the gene pools going. So Mufasa was a Kalahari lion. Nala was a Kalahari lion. So those were the Kalahari gene that we had. And Bongane and Shakira and Kiara were the Cape Lion gene. And then we started to breed our own lions. And we only bred every 4 or 5 years to keep the gene going. And then later on the same year, my husband bought a tiger. He went to Nampu. And we were not married then yet. He was still just visiting. I was still a student. So I had to look after the lions at that stage. He said, I need to babysit the lions. He's going to Nampu with a bunch of his lawyer friends. And I wrote accounting that next morning. It was a Friday. And the Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, I had a big accounting exam at the university. And I had to study. And around 1 o'clock, he wasn't home yet. And I was very angry because I still had to drive back to the city to where I was staying. And he came home that night here. I was sitting awake. And I told him over the phone, listen, hierdie case is verby. I'm done. This is not how I work. I'm writing accounting the next morning. You said you're going to be home at 11 o'clock so that I can leave. I still have to drive. And he came a little bit, I think they stopped everywhere to have some drinks. And it was just this yelling. It was I've never heard a sound like that before. So when I told him over the phone that I'm done with him, he mustn't even try to contact me again after this. He turned back and he found a guy and he said, listen, I need a baby tiger. I need something to take home to this girl. So he went back that time of night and he bought a baby tiger. And that's how we started with the tiger. Obviously I didn't leave him. I took the tiger. And that is Shangan. He's still alive. He is now, yes, that was in 2000. He's now 20 years old. Still going strong. You can see he's old. And that's when we started, where we started with the tigers. And later on we got a female in. And the cheetahs came later. Basically all the extinct species is what it evolved to now over the years. Oh, jy wil speel. Yeah, so that's how Bagamoya started, animal-wise. Yes, that's a controversial subject, but I think it's very interesting to talk about that. It's like, basically, you've got your different your industry in horses. You've got the horse racing, you've got the breeding of horses, you've got different types. In the game industry, it's exactly the same. If you go and you look at normal game, it's also gene pools. It's all about the length of the horns and everything. Lions started those years. It started as private owners that had lions, and again, it's different roads you take. Whether you decide, listen, I'm going to make a business of this. I'm going to breed lions to sell. I'm not, or that farmer says, I'm only going to sell. I'm not going to hunt. Then you have guys that say, okay, listen, I'm going to buy in lions and I'm going to raise them. In those years, the canned hunting started years ago. That's when I think it's about 18, 20 years ago. I don't know exactly. So what they did was they bought lions, they hand reared them, everyone knows this, and then after that, after a year or 2 years or 3 years, they let them go into 1,000 hectares or more, and then they were hunted, and they had permits for that. That was something that nature conservation permitted you as a farmer to do. So we were never in that business. It was actually just a passion for us when we started with Bongane. So then over the years, and it was a money-making industry. It was, when I read up about it, I never really wanted to have anything to do with it. I didn't even want to read up about it, because for me, the lions and the cats were like my children. They stayed with me in the house. I spent all my time with them. So even the thought of someone shooting a lion or raising a lion to be shot, I couldn't handle it. I just didn't want to know even anything about it. So I didn't know anything about it. But you read up and you hear conversations. So it was all about, it's like any other industry, I think. It's all about the money, because those years, if the Americans hunt a lion, the head, and it gets exported, they pay between 1.5 and 2.5 million for a lion head. That's what the farmer made. So they will buy lions, big lions. They will go around to lion farmers and say, okay, listen, that's a 3-year-old, because in nature a lion only grows to the age of 8 years, the male. At 5 years he gets kicked out. Then normally the young lions of 3 years will take over the pack. So their life expectancy is 8 years. And once they're kicked out of a group, normally either they killed or they starve, because in the fight they lose their teeth or they were hurt, and normally the females hunt for them. So they're kicked out of the pack and they don't have anyone to hunt for them, so they die of hunger. So the guys will go around and they say, listen, okay, this lion is in his prime, 3-4 years old, we are willing to pay X amount, say 500,000 rand for the lion, but they let it be hunted and they get 2.5 million only for that. So that was the thing. Nature conservation reached out permits, it was legal. Then the greenies and all over South Africa, there was high controversy about that years ago, so they stopped it because of the trouble from all over the world. And then those lion farmers sat with between 300 and 500 lions on their farm, and it cost a lot of money. It cost us about 3,000 rand a month for one lion. That's more or less what you pay to get meat for one lion. So you can imagine if you've got 300 lions to feed. You cannot, well, they could afford it. When the lions were hunted and they, once a year and the people came, they got the money, because if you have 2.5 million per lion and you only hunt 50 lions, then you've got enough money to get the food. It's not a problem. And a lot of these farmers had the game on their farms also, so they will kill the game, they will breed game in order to feed the lions. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly, but that's what I hear, how it worked. So then they stopped the canned hunting. Now the guys sat with 300, 500 lions on their farms. They have to feed them, they have no money. So at the beginning, I know a lot of farmers' lions starved. There were pictures, and they were always on social media going a picture here and a picture there. But I will never look at it, because for me it's just unacceptable. I will literally go to that guy's place. Nia. Now she's getting angry with me because I'm not playing with her. So then they started illegally slaughtering their lions. They had to kill it, because who lets a lion starve? So they started shooting their own lions. I think there's a lot that we don't know. I don't even know half of it, I think. And in between also came the Chinese. Before the slaughterhouses were put up through nature conservation, the Chinese are always everywhere in regards to that. So the guys had to make money, because their income was non-existent after the canned hunting was taken away. So they started to kill their lions and sell the teeth and the bones and the claws to the Chinese. For, say, example, a crate those years would go 80,000, 100,000 rand. And then you've got the lion skin as well. So they created a black market for the remains of the lions, because they couldn't feed them anymore. And then a few years back, I don't remember exactly when, but a few years back, the first lion slaughterhouse was legally put up on a farm just a few kilometers away from here. So Nature Conservation gave permits to the guys that used to be in the trading of lions and the hunting of lions, and said, listen, okay, now you can legally slaughter your lions. And that for me also, it's unacceptable. So I don't talk to a lot of people because of what they do. Everyone doesn't have a passion for animals, and that's something that I had to realize. My husband also told me, listen, you can't you can't tell another guy what to do with his animals. Even if you don't like it, you can't tell him, listen, if it's legal, it's legal. So she wants to play. So that industry boomed, and the Chinese were still in between, because what do you do with the remains of the lions after you slaughtered it? You know, there's no money in it for you if you can't sell it. So that's the different industries. And then there's us, literally the minority of the industry that's actually in the reservation. What's it? Reservation of animals. For me, it's about heritage. And there's a few places in South Africa. I always ask, my husband used to love, well, now also before lockdown, he will always go to places, Cape Town or wherever, and visit places that's the same as us. Basically to see, you know, in what condition and what they have. So I don't like going to places like that, because I always feel the animals are not in such a good condition as mine, and they don't get enough attention. I always check the animals. What's she seeing? Oh, it's the cat. It's the Bengal. It's a wild Bengal. I will always go up to the animals, and then I will talk to them, because my animals are talkers. You saw the lions this morning, so they and they climb on top of you, and this one will come and you know, they talk to me and they come and lie with me. Whereas when you go to places like this, and the animals would just lie and they don't even react. Hey, Sydney, they won't even react when you talk to them. So that's a sign for me that those animals don't have any they don't get any attention except for food being thrown over, or food. So I don't like it. I normally cry when I go away from places like that. So there's very few places with the intentions of heritage or reserving the genes of animals like we are, and that's a problem. It created a problem for people like us, because overall people from all over the world, or people that haven't visited Bagamoyo, or go to the trouble to phone and say, listen, what's the purpose? Why do you work with lions? Why do you handle the cubs? Why do you have a cheetah? Why? What's the purpose? They will just go and say, yes, but they have lions, or they have tigers. They are the same as the others. So jy word net oor dieselfde kam geskeer. No one asks you. And that was a problem for us. And how do you explain? You know, over the internet you will just basically get a random tag from someone that's in England saying, don't support Bagamoyo Wildlife Estate. They breed for hunting, or they sell cubs. But we don't. We never have. We are a sanctuary. My eldest tiger is 20 years old. Bongani also died at the age of 17. He had cancer. So I will always, when I go to a place, ask, how old is this animal? Because if you only have animals always, if you go every year, and every year you go and there's always just cubs, or there's always just animals under the age of 6 months, what happens to the animals? Why don't you have animals that's 10 years old, or 12 years old, or 6 years old? Where's the tiger that we saw 2 years ago? Where's that tiger now? You know, there's a new one. We always have new ones. Like these young ones are almost a year. but I can show you where her mother is, and I can show you where the father is, and I can show you where the grandfather is and the grandmother, because they all still here. We don't make money out of the lions. We don't sell them. We breed them once in 4 or 5 years for heritage. So and that's the difference, and very little people are interested in knowing what the difference is between Bagamoya and a random other estate where you can go and see wild animals. So yeah, go and look. About 12, 13 to 15 years ago, there were more than 30,000 wild lions in Africa, meaning that they roamed free in Africa. Now there are less than 10,000 in Africa, not in South Africa, roaming free, because they get killed, they get poached. Remember, people locate. If you go in Africa, populations grow and they need to live somewhere. And as the population grows, they build houses inside the territories of the animals. In India, the same. The same with tigers. Many species are extinct. They're not even extinct. They're gone. They're not existing anymore. And that's what many of the greenies don't understand. They don't grasp what's going on. They don't grasp the fact that everything, there's a black market for everything. Wild animals, the skin, the fur of this cheetah is worth a lot of money. So if you go into Zimbabwe, or if you go even into South Africa areas, there's wild leopards, there's still wildlife if you can get in. And they kill the animals because for someone that has no food on the table and that has nothing to provide his family with, 10,000 rand to only spot an animal that can be hunted is a lot of money, and they do it. All that he does is says, listen, and that's what happened years ago. I don't know if you remember, a few years back, the lion farmers' animals were poisoned. You don't know about that? Yes, a few years back it was heavy. The lion farmers, we used to patrol every hour. We used to drive up on the road, and even during daytime, if you see people walking the road or sitting, you will tell them, listen, what are you doing here? Where do you stay? Because we know all the workers staying here, just because of that fact. Because they will put out spotters, they call them spotters, and they will just see what's the routine of the lion farmers. And it's specifically, that's when the black market actually started, when they got, and they will only cut off the paws, and they will cut off the paws for the nails, and the heads for the teeth. Must actually go and read up about that. It was a huge thing for a couple of years. So we used to patrol every night. We'll go and see, and during the day also, if I'm here 3 times a day, I will drive the road and see if there's anyone walking in the road that's not supposed to be there. If you see him, he can't tell you where he's going or where he's staying, you say, listen, get on, I'm dropping you, and you take him to town. It's not supposed to be there. Because they put out spotters to see what's the routine, how many lions are in a camp, and then they will come at night and they poisoned the lions, and they gave enough poison because the guy had to tell him exactly how many lions or tigers are inside the cage, because they had to cut and go in. You can't have a surprise. So a lot of lion farmers' animals were poisoned and killed. It was actually a huge thing. So because of the poaching and the money industry that came along with having these animals and all the products and the muti and everything, you have to reserve the gene. So that's why a lot of private owners got permits to breed with the animals. But as anything else, you always have those type of people that will go the other way, and they will create an industry where you hunt, where you make money out of it. I think the intention was never really, I don't think nature conservation ever meant for it to go that way. But then, where do you look when you get permits? when we apply for permits, there's certain specifications that you need to follow. So your cage or your camp must meet certain specifications. It has to be a hectare per lion or tiger, and then after that, for every lion it must be half a hectare. So your camp must meet these specifications. The fencing must be in a specific way. So before they grant you a permit, they come to investigate your premises and see if everything is up to standard, and then only after that you get granted permits. And then I think just it boomed, money wasn't an a problem, because to buy a lion in those years you paid between 5 and 20,000 rand for a cub. That's basically, even dogs, pit bulls are now more expensive than that. So it wasn't expensive, it was about the permits and having the money and the means to put up the camps, because the infrastructure is actually what costs you money. That's the expensive part of keeping these animals. It's not the animal itself. Not now. I mean, now the extinct species, the cheetahs, the leopards, it's really expensive to buy them, but you don't get permits for them anymore. No one gets granted permits for them anymore. It was stopped years ago. So I think then too many people had lions, and it's a cat, it breeds. So if you have a male and a female, it gives you up to 5 babies, and they can have babies 3 times a year. So then it was just, and then the lions in captivity it boomed. There was thousands of lions in captivity. So, but you can't, once you've tamed a lion, I can tell you, I've worked with them for 20 years. There's no way that you can say in 7 years it's not going to be tame anymore. It's still going to be a wild animal, but it will always have that, because you raised it, and it's a family animal. They don't become 100% wild again. They will always have that element. So I'll tell people when they tell me that why do you have it? It was meant those years to breed them because of poaching, so that it doesn't get all extinct like some of the tiger species. But then I think it went, and there was no control over it, I think. And then you can't take a guy's permit back if his premises are up to standard and the rules are obeyed. You cannot come and say, listen now, but now we decide you can't breed lions anymore, because nature conservation and the government granted you the permit. But I think then over the years it got out of control, and what came along with it, all the black market things, and there were too many people doing it, and the nature conservation had no control over it, and now they're trying to get control back. But people don't understand that you need places like this to keep the genes going, because still people are killing animals for money. It's all about the money. Selling the products, selling the nails, selling the not the nails, the claws, selling the teeth, selling the skin. There's a market for it. There will always be a market somewhere in the world for it. Money is the root of all evil in this industry as well, as with many other industries. But very few people, the greenies, I call them the greenies, but very few of them really understand it. They don't want to understand it. I can understand why. If you see, even I'm repulsed by what hunters do and what people do that has no passion for animals. I hate it. I don't like to see it. But you need to realize that if there's not places like this, everything will get extinct. All the wild animals will get extinct. Even now, caracal, serval, the smaller cats, the Bengal, because everything has a financial value for someone somewhere. Money is really, for me, money is the root of all evil, but they don't understand it. They just think it's wrong. They think it's wrong that you handle a wild animal because God created the animal to be wild. But how are we supposed to reserve these animals if we don't have people that reserve them or say, listen, but there's a boundary? Same with rhinos. I mean, rhinos are, it's exactly the same, and lions are now going the same road as rhinos. Cheetahs, the same road. Leopards, the same roads. Tigers, the same. It's all the same. Phew, a lot of aspects, I think, for this place, only to be able to leave this place even when I die in 50 years, that it's still here. It's something that you leave behind for generations to come, so that people can come still in 40 years, 50 years, see a lion, see a Cape lion, see a Kalahari lion, see a white tiger, see a normal Bengal tiger, leopards, cheetahs, king cheetah, basically for heritage. That's my dream for this place, because that's why we started it. And then for me, I want to be here. I want to be here always with my singing career. That's something that I just really enjoy. And as I told you before, I love writing music and just be an instrument to serve the people, to listen to my music and carry the message that I want to carry. And with the children, I love my kids to death. They must always have this place to come back to. We will always be there, and the animals, we hope that this place will still be here in 50 years' time, if everything goes well in South Africa. We don't know.